And then the Impact was designed and built, and there was another car called the Ultralight, and the Impact ran on electricity, and the Ultralight got 100 miles per gallon, and I thought, wow, that'd be great. If you could get 100 miles per gallon and run on electricity, that would be perfect. And so in 1992, all of my classmates and students, and a lot of younger students, because they tended to be gullible, and they could be talked into doing almost anything. So we started building this car, but we built it from scratch. We built the chassis from scratch. We built the body panels, every single one of them from scratch. We went out to McClellan Air Force Base in Sacramento and built windshields using the same, convinced them to let us make windshields the same way that they made fighter cockpits out of plastic. And so we built this whole thing, and when we got done, we'd put all this design work into it. It looked exactly like a giant bug. With wheels, a giant bug with wheels. And it got about 80 miles per gallon, and it ran 40 miles on electricity using just the batteries. I think they were actually contraband. I'm not sure, but the guy we bought them from, they were so cheap, nickel cadmium batteries, that they couldn't have been legal. But the point is that we achieved these things, and we thought to ourselves, well, this is such a great idea. Let's just wait for the auto industry to just follow suit. Maybe, hopefully, it will look a little better than what we have, but, well, it took a while. It took a while, but what you see today is the culmination of a lot of years of work and research and development, and all the vehicles that we saw along the line, electric vehicles like the EV1 and the Toyota RAV4, and all the hybrids that people are buying and driving, and all the fuel cell vehicles. All of those developments led really to what the things you see today. And there were some amazing things in that showroom. The battery company, A123, has been in existence for just a few years. So they started with an idea in a university lab. They started a company, and now they are one of the leading battery suppliers to build the battery for plug-in hybrid and electric vehicles. So you think to yourself, what could happen in the next 5 years? We also have, for the first time, in my memory, which stretches back for a while with respect to plug-in hybrids, automakers with real plug-in hybrids that they designed and built on the showroom floor. The Saturn Vue from General Motors, the Ford Escape plug-in hybrid, a Dodge Sprinter van plug-in hybrid. So these are amazing things that the two small SUVs will deliver, I'm told, up to 120 miles per gallon for the first 30 or so miles that you drive them every day. So we're seeing amazing technology there, and we're going to see more of it. From an environmental standpoint, we can do this in a way that everyone can win. Okay, we can generate this power, we can generate it cleanly. There's lots of ways to do it. We can generate power personally with personal solar panels. We can put pressure, we can encourage utilities to only build the cleanest possible power. And this is something that I do a lot of work. EPRI is a part of the utility industry. We do research for the utility industry. Our industry, climate is a fact of life. It is not a matter of if, it is just when. Utilities will all have to manage their systems and build new technologies to reduce CO2 emissions and reduce them dramatically to where we get dramatic reductions just in the next several years. So this is a fact of life for us. So I think that we can all win from this. We can get cheap transportation fuel. Now, electricity right now, the national average is about equivalent to 75 cents a gallon gasoline, and we'll get good improvements in air quality. And ultimately, many of my colleagues in the industry believe that if you electrify anything that moves, if it moves and it'll roll down the road and you grab it and stick a plug on it, that this could be that we could eliminate 1 billion tons of CO2 a year from the U.S. So this could be something that is tremendously healthy for our country and would help us in almost any conceivable way. So I'm going to let us go to the next speaker, and thank you very much for coming. I would like to say that in 1992, if I had approached each one of you individually, at least the ones that were here, some of you were not here in 1992, and explained what I was trying to do in school, it would have been totally obvious to you. And everyone that I ever explained it to from 1992 forward said, wow, driving on electricity and then, maybe driving on electricity, electric vehicle, or plug-in hybrid, that sounds like a really great idea. It's only completely obvious that we should just do that. So you're the vanguard, and we appreciate your interest, and we never believed there would be so many of you coming out here, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Well, your story about your car that looks like a bug brings something to mind, which is I've spent the last 20 years doing market research, talking to a lot of Californians about lots of different types of choices, potential choices from methanol to compressed natural gas vehicles, electric vehicles, plug-in hybrids, fuel cell vehicles. We've been interviewing many, many California households, but I remember this one household in Sacramento. We were back in 1993, we were doing interviews related to the zero emissions vehicle program in California. And we were talking to this one particular house. So we gather the whole family together usually, and we'd keep track of all their travel for a week prior to the interview, and we'd work up this timeline chart and show them everything they were doing. And then we'd talk about choices and vehicle choices. But through this interview, the woman in the household was getting very uncomfortable every time we'd ask her anything having to do with electric vehicles. And we're picking different ranges. We're trying to understand what range of electric vehicles, you charge and then you have to charge, you deplete, it's not like a plug-in, you deplete the vehicle. Those of you who have that know that. So we're trying to figure out what households they need, 40 miles, 50 miles, 100 miles, 120 miles of range for their travel, what would work in their lifestyles. But she would resist at all interest in this. And finally, I just kind of sat back and I asked her a few questions about it, and because we weren't really pushing on her, we were just looking for where it might work with her. And she confessed that she had watched the news the night before, and one of those bug-shaped vehicles had been on the news. And so she thought we were asking her actually to buy one of those bug-shaped vehicles that we were trying to sell her, and she'd be stuck in one of those little things. So here to talk a little bit more about actually some of those consumer issues, Chelsea Sexton, who's a co-founder of Plug-in America, which is a coalition of individuals and organizations that are active advocates for preservation and manufacture of these plug-in hybrids and electric vehicles. She's a former GM EV1 specialist. She's worked a lot in marketing, is an advocate for this, and you may recognize her she's one of our few movie stars in our group, from Who Killed the Electric Vehicle? Chelsea.
She blushes easily, too. I'm not nearly formal enough for the podium, so I think we're better right here. I feel a little silly, actually, talking about what Plug-in America is almost, because it's clear from the number of people who raised their hands that you already know. I mean, you all are Plug-in America. So we started several years back as an organization called Don'tCrush.com. It was a group of mainly people who had electric cars or had them or wanted them. And luckily didn't mind too much that there was a former car company employee in the mix. And it started as a group who just kind of had to get in the way of what was happening, which was all these automakers taking back cars and kind of crushing them, and no one being willing to tell the story. And so we just started, figuring we are average people. We'll try to talk to other average people, and we'll see if we can't get in the middle of this. And so after a while, we'd done our campaigns and saved our cars and kind of go, okay, great, Don't Crush doesn't fit anymore. Where do we go from here? So we rebranded the organization Plug-in America and set about trying to get cars built, trying to move this whole thing forward, and really kind of sat back and said, well, who are we and how do we fit into all of this and what do we do? Because there already are a lot of really great, talented stakeholders in this. And as we kind of looked at it, we went, you know what? We are the largest group of experience of people who have been there and done that with respect to using electric vehicles and plug-ins every day. We have more experience talking to other people about them than half the car companies trying to build them now. We are the front lines, and so we became this sort of very consumer-oriented organization. And then we had to kind of sit back and look at how do we play in the space and who are the other stakeholders, and some people have kind of heard this analogy before, but we kind of went, okay, there's industry, there's car companies, and we try to pull them into this 21st century and get them back into this space. And so we spend a lot of time talking to them about what the market is and where it is and where the knees have been skinned before and maybe how to not do that again and some of the messaging and stuff like that. And then we have all the policymakers, and some of them are trying to sort of remediate old policy. Some of it's a lot of enthusiasm for new policy, but we have a lot of policymakers who are getting into this space. We can talk to them about that too, and the different ways that policy can encourage all of this